Commander Park stood motionless on the bridge of his patrol vessel, the GCS Sentinel. His eyes were fixed on the swirling anomaly that had appeared without warning in the Rigel sector. The ship's sensors had never detected anything like it before, a massive tear in space that pulsed with strange energy readings. Lieutenant Kim worked frantically at her console, trying to make sense of the data flooding their systems. The anomaly was growing larger, its edges rippling like waves on a dark ocean. Other crew members whispered among themselves, their normal discipline forgotten in the face of this extraordinary event. "Sir, something is coming through," Kim reported, her voice steady despite the tension. The anomaly's center began to darken, and a massive shape pushed through the distortion like a whale breaching the surface of a sea. First came the bow, a wedge of dark metal that seemed to absorb the light around it. Then more of the vessel emerged, section by section, until the full scale of the warship became clear. It dwarfed their patrol vessel, stretching nearly 15 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull bore the scars of ancient battles, yet it moved with a grace that seemed impossible for something of its size. "Match the hull markings against the database," Park ordered, though he already suspected what they would find. His grandfather had told him stories of this ship when he was young, tales that had inspired him to join the Coalition fleet. Kim's fingers flew across her console. "Sir, the markings. They're human. The ship's name is HSS Prometheus." She paused, double-checking her readings. "Commander, according to our records, this ship disappeared 200 years ago during the last stand at Colony 7. Park felt his throat tighten. Every Coalition officer knew the story of the Prometheus. It was the flagship of humanity's fleet during their expansion era, before they joined the Coalition. The ship had vanished while defending a human colony from attack, taking its entire crew with it. Its loss had become legendary, studied at every Coalition academy, as an example of sacrifice in the line of duty. "Open a channel," Park ordered. The bridge crew held their breath as Kim sent out the standard greeting. Seconds stretched into minutes with no response. The Prometheus hung in space before them, its running lights slowly flickering to life. Its size made Park's patrol ship look like a tiny fish next to an ancient leviathan. The design was clearly human, but there were modifications to the hull that didn't match any known records. "Sir, I'm detecting power signatures coming online throughout the vessel," Kim reported. "Their systems are activating one by one. Life support, artificial gravity, main computer." She stopped suddenly, staring at her readings. "Commander, I'm picking up life signs, thousands of them." Park leaned forward in his chair. "Impossible. After 200 years. The signatures are human, sir. They appear to be in some form of stasis, but they're definitely alive." Before Park could respond, a signal came through on their main communication channel. The voice was artificial, calm, and measured. "This is Atlas, artificial intelligence of the HSS Prometheus. Please identify yourself." Kim looked to Park for permission to respond. He nodded, and she opened the channel. "This is Lieutenant Kim of the Galactic Coalition ship Sentinel. We welcome your return." There was a pause before Atlas responded. "Galactic Coalition. Our records do not contain this designation. Please clarify." "Our last known position was defending Colony 7 from hostile forces." Park took over the communication. "Atlas, I understand your confusion. There's no easy way to say this, but the Prometheus has been missing for 200 years. The galaxy has changed significantly since your disappearance." Another pause, longer this time. "Processing. I am beginning to revive Captain Lee and essential command crew. Request permission to maintain position while we assess the situation." "Permission granted," Park replied. He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Coalition Command. Priority 1 message. The lost supercarrier has returned." As Park watched the massive ship through the viewport, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a lost ship finding its way home. Something about the modifications to the hull, the strange energy readings their sensors were detecting, The Prometheus had changed during its absence. Lieutenant Kim's voice interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, Coalition Command acknowledges. They're dispatching a diplomatic vessel to our location." She hesitated before adding, "They're classifying this as a first contact scenario." Park nodded, understanding the implications. Whatever the Prometheus had encountered during its absence, whatever had changed it, was about to reshape the galaxy they knew. The ship hadn't just returned. It had brought something with it. Captain Li Yujin's eyes opened slowly as the stasis pod's cover lifted away. The familiar hum of the Prometheus's systems surrounded her, but something felt different. Her mind was foggy, struggling to piece together her last memories before stasis. They had been defending Colony 7, facing overwhelming odds against an unknown enemy fleet. Cold air rushed into her lungs as she took her first real breath in what she thought had been months. The medical bay's soft blue lighting helped ease her transition back to consciousness. A gentle voice spoke from the room's speakers. "Atlas, the ship's eye. Welcome back, Captain. Please remain still while I complete post-stasis checks." She could hear others awakening nearby. The sounds of pod covers opening, medical staff moving between stations, and the quiet murmur of confused voices. Through the window of her pod, she saw Commander Song already sitting up in his station, looking as disoriented as she felt. "Atlas, status report. Lee manage," her voice rough from disuse. "Captain, the ship is secure and fully operational. However, I must inform you that our situation has changed significantly." Atlas paused, something it rarely did. According to external timestamps and verification from nearby vessels, approximately 200 years have passed since we entered the anomaly. Lee tried to sit up too quickly, and a wave of dizziness forced her back down. 200 years. It wasn't possible. "Explain," she ordered. Commander Song made his way to her pod, still unsteady on his feet. His face showed the same shock she was feeling. "Captain, Atlas has been briefing me. We're in contact with something called the Galactic Coalition. Humanity. We're part of it now." A medical officer approached with a tablet, checking Lee's vitals. "You're stable, Captain. Take it slow, but you can sit up now." Lee gradually raised herself to a sitting position, accepting a water pouch from the officer. "Atlas, show me what's out there." The medical bay's main screen activated, displaying a view from the Prometheus's external cameras. A sleek patrol vessel hung in space nearby, its design unlike anything Lee had seen before. Its hull bore markings in multiple languages, including Earth Standard. "The vessel is designated GCS Sentinel," Atlas reported. "Their commander has been most helpful in providing initial data about our new situation. Humanity joined this galactic coalition approximately 50 years after our disappearance. The war we were fighting, it ended shortly after we vanished." Commander Song stood beside Lee's pod, his expression thoughtful. "Our crew, Atlas, all 15,000. All crew members are in stable condition. I am bringing them out of stasis in phases to prevent overwhelming our medical facilities. Current priority is command staff and essential personnel." Lee watched as more of her officers and crew awakened around them. Each face showed the same mix of confusion and disbelief as they learned the truth of their situation. For them, only 3 months had passed since they entered the anomaly while fleeing a devastating attack. "The modifications," Lee said suddenly. "Atlas, the changes we encountered inside the anomaly, did they remain?" "Affirmative, Captain. All technological upgrades are intact and fully integrated. Our capabilities significantly exceed current coalition standards." Before Lee could respond, a young officer rushed into the medical bay. "Captain, Commander, you need to see this." He held up a data pad showing news feeds from across coalition space. Headlines flashed across the screen. "Lost human supercarrier returns. Legendary Prometheus found. Historic vessel reappears after 2 centuries." Lee exchanged glances with Song. Their return wasn't just a military matter. It was making waves across an entire civilization they knew nothing about. Humanity had changed in their absence, evolving from a species at war to a member of a galactic community. Atlas, Lee said firmly, begin full analysis of all available coalition data. I want to know everything about what we've missed. And prepare my ready room. We'll need to meet with coalition representatives soon. As her crew continued to awaken around her, Lee felt the weight of command settling back onto her shoulders. They had survived whatever happened in that anomaly, but now they faced a challenge none of their training had prepared them for, returning to a home that had moved on without them. 200 years, Song said quietly. What do you think we'll find has changed? Lee looked at the coalition vessel through the viewport. Everything, Commander. But we're still here, still a crew. Whatever this new galaxy holds, we'll face it together. The Coalition Council chamber was filled with the angry voices of 200 representatives from across the galaxy. The massive circular room, with its high crystal dome showing the stars above, had never seen such disorder. Delegates shouted across the chamber, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the volume of heated exchanges. Ambassador Han sat quietly in the human section, watching the chaos unfold. The news of the Prometheus's return had sparked fears that many thought long buried. On the main display, images of the Supercarrier loomed large, its massive form a reminder of humanity's warlike past. The Centaurian delegate's voice rose above the others. This vessel was designed for war. Its very presence threatens the peace we've maintained for generations. Several other species voiced their agreement, their various appendages gesturing in agitation. Han waited, letting the fear and anger run its course. He had spent decades representing humanity in the coalition, working to prove that his species had grown beyond their violent history. Now, all that work was being tested by a ghost from the past. Finally, he stood. His simple motion, calm and controlled, drew attention. The chamber gradually fell silent, all eyes and sensory organs turning to the elderly human diplomat. My fellow representatives, Han began, his voice clear and steady. I see fear in this chamber. I understand it. The Prometheus comes from a time when humanity was different, when we were the warriors you once feared. He paused, looking around the room. But consider this, what you fear is merely a memory. Han walked to the center of the chamber, where the holographic display showed the Supercarrier. Yes, this ship was built for war. But look at what humanity has become since then. Look at the colonies we've helped establish, the medical advances we've shared, the peaceful solutions we've helped negotiate. The Arcturian representative, their crystalline form shimmering, spoke up. But, Ambassador, this vessel's technology far exceeds our current capabilities. The scans show modifications we cannot even understand. How can we trust such power? Han smiled gently, the same way you learned to trust humanity. With time, with patience, and with the understanding that growth and change are possible. He gestured to the image of the Prometheus. This ship and its crew are not invaders. They are refugees from our own past, seeking to understand a galaxy that has moved forward without them. The chamber grew thoughtful. The Rigelian delegate, known for their cautious nature, raised a tendril. What do you propose, Ambassador Han? I propose we see this not as a crisis, but as an opportunity. The Prometheus and its crew have experienced something extraordinary. Whatever they encountered during their absence gave them technology we can barely comprehend. They chose to return here, to what was once their home. Han's voice grew stronger. Let us welcome them, learn from them, and show them how the galaxy has changed for the better. The tension in the chamber began to ease. The Centaurian who had spoken earlier shifted uncomfortably. And if they refuse to adapt to our peaceful ways? Captain Lee has already agreed to full coalition oversight, Han replied. The Prometheus will remain in neutral space until we reach a formal agreement. They're not demanding anything. They're asking to understand the new world they've found themselves in. A soft murmur of approval spread through the chamber. Han could see the fear being replaced by curiosity, the anger giving way to interest. Even the most suspicious delegates were beginning to see the possibilities. Think of what we might learn, Han continued, not just about their advanced technology, but about ourselves, about how far we've all come. The Prometheus is a bridge between the past and the present, a chance to see how much we've all grown. The council president, a member of the ancient Helia species, raised their hand for silence. Ambassador Han speaks wisdom. I propose we form a delegation to work with the Prometheus crew, to help them adjust to our time, and to explore what knowledge they might share. The vote that followed was nearly unanimous. As the chamber emptied, several delegates approached Han to offer their support. The crisis wasn't over, but the first step had been taken. Looking up at the image of the Prometheus still hovering above, Han felt a mixture of pride and concern. He had bought time and opportunity, but much would depend on what Captain Lee and her crew decided to do with it. The ship might be from humanity's past, but it would help shape the Coalition's future. Chief Engineer Choi's hands moved swiftly across the holographic displays in the Prometheus's main engineering bay. Around him, the ship's systems hummed with an energy that felt both familiar and strange. He had known every sound, every vibration of this vessel before they entered the anomaly. But now everything was different. Atlas, display the comparative analysis of our current systems against the original specifications, Choi requested. The AI complied, and dozens of schematics appeared in the air before him. The differences were staggering. The engineering bay doors opened, and Captain Lee entered with Dr. Nam, the Coalition's lead scientist. The doctor's eyes widened at the sight of the engine core, which now pulsed with a soft purple light instead of its original blue. As you can see, Choi explained, pointing to the schematics, these aren't just upgrades. The ship's basic structure has been altered at the molecular level. The hull isn't even made of the same material anymore. Dr. Nam stepped closer to the displays, her scientific curiosity overcoming her initial caution. This is impossible. These readings suggest the metal can repair itself. It's almost alive. Captain Lee watched as Choi brought up more data. Show them what we found in the memory banks, Chief. Choi nodded and accessed a secured section of the ship's database. During our time in the anomaly, we encountered something. The crew was in stasis, but Atlas recorded everything. New images appeared, showing strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. They called themselves the Architects, Atlas's voice added. They exist in dimensions beyond our understanding. They found us suitable for improvement. Dr. Nam moved from display to display, her hands trembling slightly as she took notes. These energy signatures, this technology, it's centuries beyond anything the Coalition has achieved. The theoretical applications alone. That's why we agreed to share this with you, Captain Lee said. But there's more. She nodded to Choi, who hesitated before bringing up the final set of data. The modifications weren't just to the ship, Choi said quietly. They changed us too. Every crew member has been enhanced. Not just physically. Our brain patterns show alterations we're still trying to understand. Dr. Nam stepped back, finally understanding the full implications. You're saying your entire crew has evolved. Not evolved, Captain Lee corrected. We were changed with purpose. The Architects told Atlas they were preparing us for something. We don't know what, but they seemed very concerned about the timing of our return. Choi brought up readings from his own medical scans. His neural patterns showed activity in regions of the brain that shouldn't have been possible. We can sense things now, feel the ship in ways we couldn't before. It's like we're connected to it somehow. The engineering bay grew quiet except for the gentle pulse of the engine core. Dr. Nam looked from the displays to the crew members and back again. The Coalition Council needs to know about this, she said finally. They will, Captain Lee assured her. But first, we need to understand it ourselves. The Architects didn't just save us from destruction. They'd rebuilt us for a purpose. We need to know what that purpose is. Choi moved to a control panel and placed his hand on it. The panel responded to his touch in a way that seemed almost intimate, displays changing and systems adjusting without any visible input. Whatever they prepared us for, it's connected to the changes in this sector of space. The anomalies are increasing. Dr. Nam watched in fascination as Choi seemed to commune with the ship's systems. You said the architects were concerned about timing. What did they tell you? Captain Lee's expression grew serious. They said we would return when we were needed, that the galaxy would face a choice, and our transformation would help guide that choice. The ship isn't just a vessel anymore, Choi added, removing his hand from the panel. It's a key. We just don't know what it unlocks yet. As if in response to his words, the engine core's purple glow pulsed slightly brighter. Dr. Nam realized she was witnessing something that would change their understanding of not just technology, but of humanity's place in the universe. We'll help you, she said firmly. The Coalition has resources, scientists, experts in fields you couldn't have imagined 200 years ago. Together, maybe we can figure out what the architects were preparing you for. Captain Lee nodded gratefully. Let's hope we figure it out in time. Because whatever's coming, I don't think the architects would have gone to all this trouble if it wasn't important. The council chamber fell into complete silence as Captain Lee stood at the center platform. The usual background noise of environmental systems and translator devices seemed to fade away as she prepared to speak. Even the most senior council members leaned forward in their seats, sensing the weight of what was to come. Lee took a deep breath, her newly enhanced senses aware of every being in the room. What I'm about to tell you will change everything we understand about our place in the universe. The Prometheus didn't just get lost in space. We were chosen. Holographic images appeared around her, showing strange geometric patterns that shifted and moved in ways that hurt the eyes to look at. These are the architects. They exist in dimensions beyond our comprehension, and they've been watching us. All of us. The militant Kresh representative stood up, his scaled armor clicking. What proof do you have of these claims? Lee nodded to Atlas, and suddenly the chamber's lighting changed. The walls seemed to bend and twist, though they remained physically unchanged. Several delegates gasped as their senses struggled to process what they were seeing. The architects modified our ship, our crew, and even our understanding of reality. Lee continued. They are evaluating every spacefaring species, testing them for compatibility with higher dimensional existence. Some pass. Others. She paused, meeting the Kresh representative's eyes. Others fail. The chamber erupted in worried whispers. The council president raised a hand for silence. Captain Lee, are you suggesting these beings judge us? By what right? Not judge, Lee corrected. They test compatibility. Like checking if a computer system can run new software. Some systems aren't compatible. She brought up new images, showing peaceful coalition worlds. These planets, these species, they show potential. Their societies evolve toward understanding, cooperation, growth. The images changed to show worlds known for their military might and aggressive expansion. Several council members shifted uncomfortably as they recognized their own territories. But some societies, Lee's voice grew softer. Some are too focused on dominance, on control. The architects call them dimensionally unstable. These societies can't exist in higher states of reality without self-destructing. A Taraxian delegate, known for their rational approach, spoke up. What happens to species that fail these tests? The chamber grew colder as Lee answered. They're given a choice, evolve or be restricted. The architects don't destroy, they contain. Species that can't transcend their aggressive natures are prevented from reaching higher dimensional spaces. They remain limited. The Kresh representative's scales darkened in anger. This is absurd. You expect us to believe some invisible beings decide our fate. Lee raised her hand, and suddenly the air around her shimmered. The modifications the architects had made to her crew became visible, subtle changes that made them seem both human and something more. We were changed to serve as a warning and a guide. The architects are offering evolution, but not everyone is ready. The council president's many eyes blinked in sequence. How long do we have? The process has already begun, Lee said. The anomalies appearing across the galaxy aren't random. They're doorways, tests. Each species will face them differently. Some will try to weaponize them. Others will study them, try to understand. She looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of each delegate. The Prometheus wasn't just given advanced technology. We were made into bridges, beings who can exist between current reality and higher dimensions. We're here to help those who are ready to make the transition. The chamber remained quiet for a long moment. Finally, an elder member of the peaceful Lumina species spoke. And those who are not ready, they'll remain as they are, Lee answered, but they won't be allowed to interfere with those who choose to evolve. The architects are very clear about that. The implications hung heavy in the air. Several of the more militant species representatives were already reaching for their communication devices, no doubt preparing to warn their governments. We're not here to force anyone's choice, Lee concluded, but we are here to ensure every species understands what's at stake. The galaxy is changing. The only question is whether we change with it. As Lee finished speaking, the chamber's normal lighting returned, but something had changed. The delegates looked at each other differently now, each wondering where their society would fall in the architect's evaluation. The council president stood slowly. We will need time to discuss this. Captain Lee, will you and your crew assist us in understanding these changes? Lee nodded. That's why we were sent back. The architects believe in choice, but they want it to be an informed choice. As the council session ended, many delegates lingered, watching Lee with a mixture of fear and hope. The galaxy's future had suddenly become much larger and much stranger than anyone had imagined. The Coalition Command Center buzzed with activity as Commander Park stood before the massive holographic display. Hundreds of ships moved across the star map, each one being upgraded with technology from the Prometheus. Coalition vessels of all shapes and sizes waited in long lines at the newly established upgrade stations. Lieutenant Kim moved between groups of Coalition engineers, her enhanced abilities allowing her to instantly understand their various technologies. The quantum shielding needs to be calibrated to your ship's specific energy signature, she explained to a group of Centaurian technicians. Think of it like teaching your ship a new language. Commander Park watched as another wave of anomalies appeared on the display. They were appearing more frequently now, testing the defenses of various species. Some tried to fight them, only to find their weapons useless. Others attempted communication, with varying degrees of success. The Lumina ships are adapting well to the new systems, Park noted as Captain Lee entered the command center. Their natural affinity for energy manipulation makes the transition easier. Lee nodded, her enhanced senses taking in all the information at once. The architects chose their timing well. Most of the peaceful species are ready for the change. It's the others I'm worried about. As if on cue, an alert flashed across the main display. A Kresh battle fleet had opened fire on an anomaly near their territory. The results were devastating, not to the anomaly, but to the Kresh ships. Their weapons simply ceased to exist, transformed into pure energy that dissipated harmlessly into space. Another failed test, Park said quietly. That's the third this week. Lieutenant Kim approached with a group of Coalition officers. The training programs are proceeding faster than expected. Several species have shown remarkable adaptation to the new technology. Their crews are already starting to experience the early stages of dimensional awareness. The command center's atmosphere shifted as a new anomaly appeared, larger than any before. This one pulsed with complex patterns of energy that seemed to reach into the minds of everyone present. The enhanced crew of the Prometheus recognized it immediately. The architects were making themselves known. All stations, hold position, Lee commanded. This is what we've been preparing for. The massive screens filled with shifting geometric patterns that somehow conveyed meaning directly to their consciousness. Park and Kim, along with the other enhanced humans, translated for the Coalition crews. They're offering a choice, Park explained to the assembled commanders. The anomalies were tests, showing which species were ready to transcend their current limitations. Now it's time to decide. Coalition ships reported strange readings as reality itself seemed to flex around them. The upgraded vessels handled the dimensional stress well, their new systems adapting automatically. Other ships, particularly those from more aggressive species, began experiencing system failures. Lieutenant Kim moved quickly between control stations, helping coalition crews adjust to the changes. "Don't fight it," she instructed. "Let your ships feel the new dimensions. They know what to do now." The architect's message continued, showing visions of what awaited those who were ready to evolve. Park watched as some species embraced the change immediately, their ships beginning to glow with new energy. Others held back, uncertain or unwilling to take such a dramatic step. "Commander," a young officer called out, "the Lumina fleet is beginning their transition. Their entire civilization has voted to accept the architect's offer." Park nodded in approval. They understand what's being offered. This isn't about power or control. It's about growth. Captain Lee stood at the center of the command center, her enhanced awareness allowing her to feel the changes rippling through space. The Prometheus was changed to show this was possible, to prove that even a warrior race could evolve beyond conflict. Now it's time for others to make their choice. The command center continued its work, coordinating the massive fleet movements as species either prepared for transcendence or chose to remain in their current state. The Prometheus crew moved among them, guiding, teaching, and showing by example what humanity had learned during their long absence. "The real crisis management," Park said to Kim as they watched another group of ships successfully upgrade, "isn't about fighting or defending. It's about helping everyone understand that change doesn't have to be feared." Lieutenant Kim smiled as she felt another species make their choice to evolve. "Maybe that's why the architects chose us. We knew how to fight, but we learned how to grow. Now we can help others do the same." Above them, the stars seemed to shine differently now, as if reality itself was preparing for something new. The galaxy was changing, and thanks to the Prometheus and its crew, those who were ready would change with it. Captain Lee stood on the Prometheus's bridge, watching as ships from across the galaxy assembled in a formation never before seen in Coalition space. The massive viewscreen showed vessels of every size and design, all modified with the architect's technology, all glowing with the same subtle energy that now powered the Prometheus. Commander Song approached with the latest reports. "The final transitions are complete. 70% of Coalition species chose to evolve. The others," he paused, checking his data, "they've accepted the containment protocols. No conflicts reported." Lee nodded, feeling the connection that now linked all the enhanced ships and their crews. What had once been separate civilizations was becoming something new, not losing their individuality, but growing beyond their limitations. "Atlas," Lee called out, "show me the full fleet." The view expanded, revealing thousands of ships stretched across space. The Lumina vessels shimmered with prismatic energy, while the modified Centaurian ships pulsed with waves of dimensional force. Even the human vessels, once built purely for war, now served as bridges between realities. "It's beautiful," Lieutenant Kim said from her station. "I never thought I'd see the Kresh trading technology with the Centaurians, or the Rigelians sharing cultural databases with the Arcturians." The Prometheus itself had changed the most. Its hull now rippled with patterns that mimicked the architect's own geometries. What had once been weapons arrays now generated fields of protective energy that helped stabilize the dimensional transitions for younger races. "Captain," Atlas announced, "the architects are making contact." The bridge crew fell silent as reality shifted around them. The architect's presence manifested not as physical forms, but as patterns of thought and energy that they could all now understand. Their message was simple. The transformation had succeeded beyond their expectations. "We were right to choose your vessel," the patterns conveyed. "Your journey from warriors to teachers proved that evolution was possible. Others followed your example." Lee felt pride, not just for her crew, but for all of humanity. "We almost didn't make it," she said. "200 years ago, we were ready to destroy ourselves." "Which is why you were perfect," the architects responded. "You showed that change is always possible, that no species is locked into a single path." Around the Prometheus, the combined fleet began to pulse in harmony. Ships that would once have destroyed each other now worked together, their crews learning to explore dimensions that their ancestors couldn't have imagined. Commander Song brought up a new display showing the galaxy's power readings. "The energy patterns are stabilizing. The species that chose to remain unchanged are adapting to their containment zones. There's no sign of resistance." "Because they understand," Lee said. "The architects never forced anyone to change. They just showed what was possible and let each species choose." The bridge crew watched as another wave of dimensional energy washed through the fleet. Each ship handled it differently, but all remained stable, protected by their new technology and their enhanced crews. "Atlas," Lee called out, "record this moment. The day the galaxy chose to grow up." The AI's response held a note of satisfaction. "Already done, Captain. Though I suspect this is just the beginning." Lee looked at her crew, at the beings they had become. They were still human, still themselves, but also something more. The Prometheus had returned from its long journey not as conquerors or saviors, but as guides showing the way to something greater. "What happens next?" Lieutenant Kim asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Lee smiled as she felt the architect's response ripple through the dimensional planes. "We explore, we learn, we grow, together." The combined fleet began to move in perfect synchronization, each ship knowing its place in the greater whole. The Prometheus led them not through command, but through example, showing how to navigate the higher dimensions, how to understand the new reality they had all chosen to embrace. As they moved forward, Lee thought about the long journey that had brought them here. From a warship lost in time to a bridge between realities, from a crew frozen in stasis to teachers helping an entire galaxy evolve. The Prometheus had finally fulfilled its true purpose, not through the power of its weapons, but through the strength of its example. The stars seemed brighter now, more alive with possibility. Humanity had returned from its long absence to find not just a new galaxy, but a new purpose. And as the fleet moved forward into unknown dimensions, Lee knew that their real journey was just beginning.